We can all feel for multi-millionaire businessman Richard Mason when he discovered that the three boys he had always thought were his biological sons were, in fact, fathered by another man. But having discovered this, what was the point in him chasing his ex-wife through the courts for money he didn't need, claiming alleged paternity fraud? In the end, she gave him £250,000 back from a £4 million divorce settlement to avoid having to name the boy's biological father in court. The story has been all over the papers this week. According to the reports, the boys don't want to know who their biological father is. They see Mr. Mason as their father. And they are right. Forget about the genetics. Mr. Mason is the boy's father. He brought them up from when they were born, and surely that's what matters. Some things are better kept private.
Just if because so many other things have been going on this week, Greg, I'm sure you'll agree, just to fill the viewers in on some of the background. Richard Mason was the co-founder of MoneySupermarket.com. He thought, as you said, he was the father of three now grown-up sons. In 2016, he was told he'd been infertile since birth. It turns out his sons have been fathered by an unknown man with whom his ex-wife had an affair, believed to have been working at the same organisation. Before this emerged, Mr. Mason had paid his wife ex-wife £4 million in a divorce settlement, and as you rightly said, Greg, he recently sued her for paternity fraud. She paid him £250,000 in an out-of-court deal in order to keep the identity of the boy's real father, biological father, secret. With the exception of the young men involved, no one emerges from this with any credit at all, do they, really? No. And I hear what you say, and it never falls to anyone to tell anyone else how to parent, because it is a unique experience, and I would never tell a mum how to be a mum or a dad to be a dad. But I do kind of get how he feels. And you're right. He is effectively the father, just as if he had adopted them, and there are many people watching the show who will have been adopted or who are adoptive parents, and it's a fantastic thing to take on. But I do understand his, to use a lovely French word, his ennui, his anger, and I understand that having paid a chunk of money, and yes, he is a wealthy man, but that doesn't mean that he shouldn't necessarily have recourse to law. I can understand why he's almost grieving because what he thought he had, he didn't have. But I say again, Greg, apart from the young men involved, no one emerges with credit. But
surely in those circumstances, you think twice, then you think three times, and then before you start taking action. Because in the end, these were his kids. They weren't genetically his.
Emotionally, but not yet.
No, he brought them up from when they were born.
I think they're two separate issues. I think how he feels about the children is one thing. How he feels about the way his ex-wife behaved is another thing. Yeah. So as a man, he's furious at her, and the only way to get back at her, the only way to feel that there was some justice in this is the course he took. That doesn't change how he feels about those children.
Which is effectively an attempt to get revenge, isn't it?
Yes, that's what it is. I think they're two separate things.
What I'm saying is, but look, suddenly these boys, their name, it's all over the papers. Yeah. This didn't have to come out. What's the advantage of it coming out?
If you're as angry as he was,
I tell you what, there's an interesting quote here from Sir James Mumby, who is the former president of the High Court Family Division, and he says the modern British family is complex and take an almost infinite variety of forms. Children live in households where their parents may be married or unmarried. They may be brought up by a single parent, by two parents, or even by three parents. And it seems to me that's the world we live in now.
Yeah.
You know that, Greg. You know you've got two mums or you've got two dads.
Yeah, no one's lied to you.
Yeah, this is the deceit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the deceit.
It is a deceit, and it was a deceit by the wife of the husband.
Twice.
But how much damage...
twins.
Yes, because I had twins. But how much damage has it done to his relationship with those boys?
Well, he says...
that's screwed.
There's a quote here, because according to... It depends what you believe. Apparently, a couple of the kids no longer talk to him, and he says, if I could wave a magic wand, I would want to be in all of their lives, which I just think it's really sad. And I'm going through, in my personal life, of which I'm not shy to share, but as you may have noticed, I'm going through a really complex decision process at the moment, because I don't don't have a partner and I want to be a mum. So I'm going through the process of looking at sperm donor conception. And in this country, there is a law where when the children get to 18, they have the legal right to access various identifying information about the father. And
if the father wants to.
No. In this country,
wow.
So in this country, when you do a donor, you have to log identifying information and non-identifying information. When the child reaches 16 and 18, depending on the differences of the information, your child has a right to find out essentially who their father is. And for me, personally, not in this country.
Before you could block it.
Yeah, not in this country. Not as a donor. Right. So anyway, my point is...
the number of donors, actually.
Yeah, it has. And for me, personally, I'm in this really complex situation because I wouldn't regard the donor as my children's father. And I would always be very honest with my child and tell them, you know, you were a gift. And I've been challenged by a couple of members of my own family because what I was intending to do for my own selfish reasons was go and get my my sperm, God, it sounds awful, but the sperm from a different country, maybe Cyprus or somewhere where that rule doesn't exist, so that I didn't have this complexity within my own family 18 years down the line. And I've been challenged, actually, within my family environment and saying, well, actually, is that fair to the children? And I'm not sure the answer.
I was reading the story about this family where a woman did that on her own. She conceived a child through a sperm donor, and they never got contact with the donor, with the father, but all of the different children that had been conceived with his sperm got to know each other, and all of the different women, and they all became a weird blended family. Through the they were all the siblings, and they go on holiday together every year.
So I'm not sure I would.
I don't think that's what any of them set out to do. No. But you know that, I mean, coming to Greg's point, that is the nature of modern families.
Yes, but the key point for me that I wanted to land is honesty. So I would always be honest to my children about the situation, and this is where this story is.
But it's much easier to be honest when you've got one child and you.
I wouldn't have just one.
That isn't these circumstances.
But if I can just finish my point, when I was a law student, I thought about doing family law, and I've been in court before Mr. Justice Mumby. He's a very, very good family lawyer, and became a very eminent family judge. And the reason I decided not to do family law was because it is so traumatic. Divorces, arguments over children, and parental arrangements, they're just the most intractable because people have been in these marriages, and when it breaks down, there is nothing like the venom and the vitriol and the revenge that gets unleashed.
What makes
and they do, and it's tragic to see.
But this guy could.
Well, there are two. I think there are two different trends in the way our families are going. So on the one hand, we have more blended families. Actually, I've got a stat here that in 2017 there were 12.9 million families where both parents were natural parents in the UK. There were 3.3 million with one natural parent and one step parent. There are 2.8 million lone parent families, and there were 10,000 families with same-sex couples. So the natures of families are changing. But the other trend is this obsession with our heritage and our DNA. Look how many people want to know
ancestry
their
and all,
parents, their grandparents, their ancestors. And I think that people do have a desire to know. So if you were to, Michelle, conceive a child through a sperm donor, there would be a very high chance that your child would really want to know who that person is, and they'd want to know not just who the donor was, but who his family
This
were.
doesn't take away from the fact that she lied. That's the problem.
Yes, and that is
it's a
the key
desperately
point.
complex issue, and I'm sure we wish everybody involved the best.